Hello everyone and welcome to another touch of baking in the kitchen. So, as I mentioned in my last video, I'm going to put the cap down again, I was asked by a lady to cook 60 to 80 cupcakes for Village Day, which happens to be tomorrow. She rang me the next day and said that the numbers had gone up to 120. The actual number is 114, so I'm kind of erring on the side of caution and doing 120 because, you know, if I've got too many, then I'll just eat them. So it's a win-win situation. Yesterday I baked 66 of them, and so today I'm going to bake the rest. So I thought I'd take advantage of baking and show you this cupcake recipe because it's really simple. Again, I say simple, and it's quick and easy, and you get some really nice cakes out of it. So without further ado, I'm really sorry that the cats are eating in the background. And how do they make so much noise? How are you making so much noise, your tiny cats? They've stopped now. So I am about to make about another 24. But for the sake of the video, I'm going to tell you the ingredients that you need for 12 because that's the normal amount that you would make. And these are kind of big cupcakes, so this size cupcake case, they're more muffin cases than cupcakes. So if you're doing 12 of these, it would do 24 mini cupcakes. Now for this recipe, you can use a hand whisk or you can use a standalone electric mixer. And I'm going to be using is that a whisk? The whisk attachment for it. Come on. Oh, we're on. What you will need for 12 cupcakes is 110 grams of unsalted butter, 225 grams of caster sugar, 2 eggs, 150 grams of self-raising flour and 125 grams of plain flour, sifted and put in the same bowl. Mix it all together. 120 milliliters of milk, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. The method really is very simple, especially if you're using a standalone mixer, but it's pretty much the same if you're even using a hand one, it just means you'll get bigger muscles. What you need to do, put the butter and the caster sugar all into the bowl. Must have had a wet bowl. Sugar's not coming out. And then you pop this underneath your standalone electric mixer. Why do I keep calling it that? Put it underneath your mixer and put that on a low speed to start with. Okay. Apologies for walking off just then. I thought I heard a knock at the door and then I thought, no, it'll be the cats. And then there was a bigger knock at the door and it was actually my neighbour coming around to ask me how the baking was going. Oh, but a ball? Oh my good boy. Oh my good boy. Off you go, sweetheart. So where was I? So put it in the mixer until it is nicely come together and it looks nice and smooth and like, my recipe book says that it should look cloud-like. Okay, I also realised I forgot to mention what temperature to have your oven on at because it needs to warm up. So if it's a normal oven, 180 degrees, fan oven, 160. So once that's all together, you need to break your eggs into the mixture one at a time and do a small mix after each breakage. You can actually leave it mixing while you break the eggs to save yourself washing your hands too many times. See, now I would say what it looks like now looks more cloud-like than it did before. The next thing you want to do is, in with your milk, put in your teaspoon of vanilla extract. I should also point out that if you're using an electric standalone mixer, you should scrape down the sides every now and then because things can get a bit more caught up on that. So give it a bit of a scrape with a knife just so that everything gets thoroughly mixed. So the next thing to do is, with your flour and your milk mixture, you want to alternate these, adding them to the mixture a third at a time. So I'm going to put a third of the flour in, give it a bit of a mix, then I'm going to put a third of the milk in and give it a mix, and you carry on until both mixtures are gone. So once that is all done, you will have a cake mixture that looks like a cake mixture. Now what you need to do is get your cupcake cases and put them in your cupcake case tin thing. Now, as I said, I'm using muffin ones, so they're the bigger ones, and the amount you want to put in each of these cases is about a normal dessert spoon and a little bit more, because they do rise quite a lot, so you will probably have more mixture than you need. But that's not a bad thing, you get more cakes. So spoon it into your cases. Now, because I'm doing these for the public, I can't do my usual spoon for the cases, spoon for me. Oh, spilt it! So there we are. I think you can see from that just how much-ish to put into each case. And now we're going to pop these in the middle shelf of the oven for about 25 minutes. You want them to be a bit brown on the top, and if you're unsure, put a skewer in the middle, and if nothing comes out on it, then they are done. So in they go. And of course, now they're in the oven, we're gonna do the baking dance.
The simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife.
And there we have it. 25 minutes later, the cakes are out of the oven and they smell so good, and I can't eat any of them, which is so frustrating. Slightly odd sizes, but you know, we're not perfectionists here, we're village people. So I've got to now make 9 more batches of these, so I'm going to get on and do that. I am going to take you through how to ice them later, so I'm going to show you that, and then I'm going to show you the finished product when they are eventually finished, which is very exciting. It's an exciting prospect. Now what we're going to do is make the vanilla buttercream icing for our cupcakes. It's a very simple icing recipe. It works for if you're doing a big cake, a small cake, a tiny cake, a cupcake. What you can do is you can halve this recipe, you can double it, you can do whatever you like with it to make it fit for your amount of cakes. So today, because I'm icing so many of them, I'm going to make enough to ice 24 good sized cupcakes. So these are the proper sized muffin sort of Daphne? Muffin sort of cupcakes, so they're not the mini ones. If you're doing the mini ones, I would say absolutely half this recipe, and equally if you want 12 cupcakes, half the recipe again, because otherwise you'll have so much icing you won't know what to do with yourself. So let's kick off with the ingredients that you need for the icing. You will need 110 grams of butter. You then want 60 milliliters of milk, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and lastly you are going to need an entire packet of icing sugar. So this is a 500 gram box of icing sugar, for which we will be using all of it. So let's kick off with making the icing. Again, I'm going to be using my freestanding electric mixer because it just saves me having all the ache. But again, you can use it with a little hand mixer, it doesn't make a difference. First of all, pop in all of your butter, pour in all of your milk, your teaspoon of vanilla extract, and then lastly what you want to do is you want to sieve half of this into this current mixture of the milk, butter and vanilla extract. So if you sieve 250 grams into here first and leave the other half until a bit later. I don't really have any tips about icing sugar apart from the fact it's very dusty. So the slower you can sieve icing sugar the better, because it saves it. It literally creates a cloud in the air of icing sugar. Hello spectators. So just sieve it really carefully. Sieve, sieve, sieve. So once that's all in your bowl, pop it underneath your mixer. Ooh! And then start start this really slowly because again, icing sugar cloud will happen and it will be messy. So start it on a really slow speed and just gradually speed it up. And what you want to do is you'll just, wait until it's combined. So it will look more buttery than icing at this point, but that's because we've still got half the icing sugar to put in. Okay, so that is all now starting to come together. So grab a knife and just push it off, make sure it's all in there. And then you've just got to sieve in the other half of your icing sugar. Sieve it in. Sieve it in, sieve it in, sieve it in. When you've put in the rest of your icing sugar, pop it back under the mixer and leave it again to get all combined. And that's it, your icing is all done. Now you're ready, you're literally ready to put it onto your cakes. And so I'm gonna get going with that because I have 120 of them to do. So as an example to show you just how to put it onto your cupcake in a really simple way, scoop up some icing. You only need about this much. I'm trying to think of how much this is, a knife bit of icing. And you just put it on the top like this and just gently push it out towards the edges. Just really gentle nudges with the knife. I use a plain, boring kitchen knife, and you can then just do a bit of a swirl on the top, make it into a little point. It's the really simple form of icing a cupcake, and I may well be doing something more fancy, but as I have so many of them to do, I'm gonna be doing it like this. That's what I'm gonna do. That is the icing section done, and then I'm going to quickly show you the end result because I feel like I deserve that after my hours making cupcakes. They're finished, I've done it. There are, I think, 120 here. I'm not entirely sure. And just decorated them with some sprinkles and some raspberries. They're finished.